I had this friend in college who just irrationally hated John Keats. I don't know why, they never really explained it, but they hated Keats so much that they... I promise this is true. They wanted to track down some living, able-bodied relative of the Keats line and challenge them to a fist fight in order to, quote-unquote, squash the beef between them. That being said, I have no idea whether or not they would like this book. I like to think they would, though. What would you do if you could go anywhere? With an entire galaxy at your fingertips, what lands and terrors would you uncover? As time slipped by around you, as your friends and schoolmates withered and died, what type of person would you become? If you could see the shape of human evolution as an outside observer as opposed to an ant caught up in the hill, what type of choices would you make? Hyperion by Dan Simmons tries to answer these questions by examining the lives of 7 pilgrims, all displaced from time and space in their own personal ways as they march towards what will likely be their deaths. Between them spans the breadth of nearly 500 years of history, reaching from the late 23rd century up until the 28th, along with the differences of opinion and experience inherent to such a spread. Through their travels and their stories, the mysteries of Simmons' titular world of Hyperion reveal themselves, and the true nature of our future is questioned. Hello everyone, it is Tuesday, I am Tuesday, and today we're going to be talking about Hyperion, Book 1 of the Hyperion Cantos. I'm going to split it up into non-spoilery stuff at the beginning, spoilers/theories for the future in the middle, and ratings and reviews at the end. There'll be time codes so you can skip around if you want to. I warn you that I've only read the first book in the series so far, so don't spoil anything for me in the comments. If I'm wrong, I want the books to prove it to me. My theorizing about possible developments is part of the fun. Consider subscribing if you like this kind of stuff, or leaving a comment or something. I read every single one of them, and I usually respond too. I absolutely love chatting with people about this stuff, and I'd love to hear your opinions down below. Now, let's get on with the video. Anyone who's even vaguely aware of this book has probably heard this, but I think it bears repeating. In a structural sense, Hyperion draws heavily from the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. What I haven't seen other people talk about, though, is that a significant amount of theming and character description are borrowed from Chaucer's script. Look for a moment at the individual stories being told. We have the priest's tale instead of the parson's, both of which revolve around penance. The soldier's tale instead of the knight's, with both concerning the pitfalls of love. The poet's tale draws from the tales of Melibea for its length and Sir Topas via elements of vapid pop literature. There is the scholar's tale instead of the clerk, the monk's tale, the detective's tale instead of the nun's priest's tale, and the consul's tale, which also draws from Melibea, but we'll get to that later. Whole characters in Simmons' work share resemblance to those in Chaucer. Martin Silenus, the mad poet, could be described physically as a mix between the summoner and the franklin. The consul resembles the shipman. An interesting inversion of this vein of character familiarity would be the monk, Het Mastine, who acts as host to his fellow pilgrims. You see, in the Canterbury Tales, the host is described as a jolly man full of compassion and goodwill for those around him. One Harry Bailey is quick to laugh and more than ready to entertain. Not so Het Mastine. Mastine the monk is a cold, detached, and presumably callous individual who likely wouldn't know what a joke was if it bit him. This, of course, is done on purpose. Each host helps set the tone for their respective stories, and let me tell you, Hyperion is depressing as hell on the face of it. For those of you who haven't read the Canterbury Tales or forgot the Spark Notes, the bulk of the narrative is written as a comedy. There are points where it's played straight, where the stories being told are exceedingly dry or overly depressing, but these points are written this way intentionally in order to create a meta-comedic effect on the reader. Take the tale of Melody as an example. Geoffrey Chaucer's fictionalized self-insert only starts telling the tale after his initial story is cut off and compared to a turd. It is the longest of any of the tales, and is also one of the most boring. However, one way to interpret this is to view the story as a meta-joke, a sort of punchline to the setup of Sir Topas. Chaucer seems to be poking fun at himself by having his fictional stand-in try to tell an entertaining tale, only to have it suck, and then switching gears to a serious tale, written in prose and everything, only to have it be boring. Herein lies the comedy inherent to the tales. Even the bad parts, the bits that are mind-numbing to read, support the underlying sense that this is a comedy. It's raucous and bawdy, with the whole endeavor existing as an attempt for the pilgrims to win a free meal. Simmons' characters are gambling with their lives. The book opens with the consul going ham on some Rachmaninoff in a spaceship on some uninhabited planet, and he gets a phone call from his boss saying how a bunch of space pirates are going to try to invade a colonial outworld that's the host of a death cult in order to have access to a time vault guarded by an alien space-killing machine. Then, his boss says the government is going to try to send 7 pilgrims to get to the time vaults first, but one of them might be a spy who needs to be eliminated, otherwise the entire known galaxy is going to descend into a war. Smash cut to the pilgrims meeting up a few months later. Everybody's apprehensive of each other, nobody knows who to trust, they all think they're going to die, and the priest tells this story about his mentor accidentally becoming immortal, and I realized I had no idea what the hell this story was going to do next. I was at a complete loss to how the book could get better after the opening, and then it did. As the pilgrims march toward what feels like their inevitable demise, Simmons finds new ways of exciting the reader while simultaneously explaining over 500 years worth of character and lore. By the time Hyperion ends, we understand in no plain detail who the pilgrims are, how this world works, and what is at stake as they make their way into the Shrike's domain. This book is a masterclass in world building through characterization, really easing us into the breadth of information needed to be able to understand what's going on. Never once while reading this did I feel overwhelmed by what Simmons was throwing at me. I definitely had questions, but the way of the presentation made me trust that I would receive answers in due time. Nothing felt out of place when I learned it. That's not to say that there weren't dull moments, the detective story being a notable point of contention. Bron Lamia's story feels a little out of place when compared to the rest of the narrative, and of the pilgrims at large, her character feels the most flat. This wouldn't be so much of a problem on its own, but the section suffers from a supporting cast with really cool concepts behind their creation and almost no personality. Outside of cringe. This makes sense for one of them, but not for the other, and I also don't really like John Keats, so I'm sure some of the wow factor inherent to these characters was lost on me. What really kept me reading through what I felt was the slump of the novel was the greater political machinations I was getting to learn about through Lamia's investigation. Through her, we get to learn about the hegemony of man's government, the Shrike Church, the AI Corps, all aspects of the galaxy that we've heard of in passing but been unable to wrap our heads around their significance. It's the lore and the tone that keep us going, a palate cleanser of intrigue that helps to reinforce the overall tone of the story between two emotional gut punches. To say this story is dire would be a massive understatement. Any points of brevity carry an underlying current of menace in a poignant and exact inversion of Chaucer. The two pieces complement each other by being over the top in ways that are beneficial to their respective genres, while at the same time working as counterpoints to each other when compared under the same light. Simmons twists the skeleton of Chaucer into a form it is arguably better suited to fill, a tale of action, intrigue, and the cataclysmic combination of colonialism and Cold War arms races. That's right, baby! Colonialism Part 2. I ain't done about Manifest Destiny. Hey guys, Editing Tuesday here. I fully intended to go in-depth into the whole Cold War and colonialism thing through the eyes of the consul in this video, but it turned out to be like 15 minutes long.
So rather than have this video be hijacked by what might feel like a tangential character analysis, I just took that stuff out and am gonna release it as its own video. That should be out about a week from now. Once it is, there will be a little card in the corner of the screen to direct you over there. In the meantime, feel free to check out my last video about a bunch of Tom Sawyer adaptations where I also talk about American colonialism and Manifest Destiny. Anyway, thanks for sitting through this interruption. Let's talk theories.
Alright guys, just let me put my theory hat on and then we can get started. So, Rachel grows up to be Minetta, right? Rachel ages backwards. Minetta moves backwards in time with the Shrike in order to meet Cassad in the past. I think there's some pretty major hints to this throughout both the Soldier's and the Scholar's tale, not least of which being that at Cassad's final meeting with Minetta, she already knows who he is, meaning that they met sometime in the future. That's the serious theory I have for y'all. My other one is kind of a meme. I think AI John Keats is gonna get uploaded to the Shrike, and is the intelligence that drives its body forward as it moves backward into the past. Do I have any basis for this? No. Do I really want this to happen? Yes. You see, I really like the idea that the ghost of John Keats can transform into a hyper-dimensional killing machine moving backwards in time towards our inevitable past, because it would be funny that my friend could never effectively squash the beef. No back-alley ditch fight with one of the Keats heirs would ever be satisfactory, because somewhere in the distant future, Mecha Keats is roaming the countryside, augmented to be the perfect killing machine and hurtling towards our timeline. No amount of training could adequately prepare for the arrival of the Keats bot, and any would-be challengers are destined to break themselves against the wall of its might. To everyone who just skipped over the spoiler section, welcome back. Let's talk about sex. More specifically, I just wanted to bring up a mild complaint that I had with this novel, which is that Dan Simmons can't write a fucking sex scene to save his goddamn life. Please, sit back and relax while I and my roommates read actual quotes that are actually written in this book. Enjoy!
Cassad's hand slid between her thighs, behind her, cupped her moving buttocks, pulled her closer and slid to the moist roughness in front. She opened to him, her mouth closing on his. Cassad felt his own excitement rubbing against the cusp of her belly.
Syrah's middle-aged flesh seemed to glow with a pale phosphorescence, while her much younger boyfriend's white buttocks gave the illusion in the dim light of floating separately from the rest of his tanned body.
Which one's worse? I'll do that one. I also felt the surge as his hand found the neural shunt. The white light warmth of the surge to the Schron loop exploded into me. Almost, it was like his orgasm inside me 2 nights earlier. The surge and throb, and sudden warmth and stillness after, with the echo of sensation there. Fuck is this shit?
After John and Lamia are done doing the Ol Sideways Wobbly.
Sometime before dawn, we slept, and just as I turned away and drifted off, I felt the cool touch of his hand on my hip in a movement protective and casual without being possessive.
I hope you enjoyed that, freaks.
On the whole, this is the type of book that makes me feel good for wanting this to be my life. It's the type of story that makes me want to have the excuse to just drop everything and interact with. Dan Simmons' imagination was firing on all cylinders when crafting this narrative, and it sucked me in from the second I opened it, all the way to when the pilgrims begin skipping off to their doom. The sheer force of creativity and literary reference here is stunning to behold, and it all comes together so well that it almost looks effortless. There's a reason why Hyperion is considered one of the titans of sci-fi, and I think everybody who's into this genre should try to read it at least once. 9 out of 10. Of course, I'm just some guy on the internet, not the end-all be-all of literary discourse. As such, I'd love to hear your opinions. Have you read this book? If so, what'd you think? Have you not read it? Has this review made you want to at least try? Am I a lonely, out-of-touch hack who looks like a raven and should shut up about literature? Please, let me know. If you thought this was cool, I've got some more of it, either here or here. As always, it is Tuesday, I am Tuesday, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!